Okay. Emily, Emily Gonzalez. Now, you asked me to make a video about the oceans. Now, this is the video that I'm gonna make for you. Now, the oceans cover 71% of the planet, with an average depth of about 4 kilometers. And though some places, such as the Marianas Trench, is up to 11 kilometers deep. Now, there are a few main oceans: the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian, Arctic, and Southern Ocean, with dozens of smaller seas, such as the Caribbean Sea, Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea, the Yellow Sea, South China Sea, just to name a few. Now, we know quite a lot about the oceans that mariners and oceanographers have found out over the last few decades and centuries. Now, for thousands of years, people have known about the ocean currents because some people, ancient civilizations, had to cross the oceans, such as the Phoenicians and the Romans, and they had to have some basic knowledge about the currents. And over the last few decades, especially, and over the last 200 years, we have found out a whole lot more about the oceans and its relationship with the planet and the oceans. Sorry, atmosphere. Sorry, my mistake. I got a bit confused. But scratch that. Yeah, anyway, the oceans serve a very important job for the planet because, first of all, they store a lot of heat from the sun, and the oceans distribute this heat from the equator to the poles via currents, and they take cold water from the poles back to the equator. So the oceans, they serve as a basically as a, what do you call it? Basically a distribution of heat across the planet, and also as a heat storage for the atmosphere. Now, it's because oceans take a long time to heat up and cool down. So, during the day, the oceans warm up the coasts and during the day, but then they they basically sorry that I'm a bit slow. I'm trying to think of the process now. Um, During the day, the continents soak up the warmth stored by the oceans, and then during the night, the continents near the coasts cool down faster than the oceans. So if you're near a coast, you will feel these difference compared to if you're in the middle of a continent. It's like this. I'm now living near a coast, and the temperature is relatively the same, about 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. Um, the oceans store up a lot of heat during the day and release it during the night. So basically equalizing the atmospheric temperature next to the coast, while in inland areas in the middle of a continent, the temperature difference between night and day are a whole lot bigger. Now, sorry that it took now such a long time to explain. Brain a bit, my brain is a bit slow now, so excuse me for that. But yeah, that's one part that the oceans do. They serve as a equalizer for the temperatures between the poles and at the coasts, for example. Um, yeah, they also serve as a storage site for all the CO2, aka carbon dioxide, they absorb from what I last read, at least half, one third to one half of all the CO2 that we produce. Um, yeah, I need to check up on that again. But at least half of the CO2 that we produce is absorbed by the oceans. Now they also produce a lot of the oxygen that we breathe because they have a lot of algae such as seaweed and phytoplankton that produce a huge amount of oxygen as almost as much or as much as the rainforests on the continents. Now, like I said before, 71% of the planet is covered by oceans. Now, 5% of the oceans have been properly researched. Now, this involves mostly the currents and geography of the water itself and the ocean floor. Also, of how the ocean interacts with the continents and the atmosphere. Um, with the life in the oceans, we have found out a lot about that over the last 100, 200 years, but every time um, people go on one of these deep sea dives in these, what are they called now? Not bath escapes? No, those are the old ones. But, ah, submersibles. They discover multiple new species. Just over the last 80 years, we've discovered hundreds thousands of new species, ranging from tiny um, phytoplankton to massive sharks, such as the megamouth, for example, or new species of fish, or new species of fish, or rediscovered old ones, such as the coelacanth. Yeah, we will get to that one in another later video. But yeah, the oceans, even though we know a lot about them, such as the currents, the geography of the seafloor, and a lot about the life and how the oceans interact with the planet and atmosphere. 95% of the oceans haven't been explored properly. Most of that is with the life that we haven't even discovered yet. I mean, there are these, for example, these salty pools on the bottom of the oceans that resemble lakes and rivers here on the continents. Even though I even though I read a lot about the oceans, even that is for me new. I mean, underground. I mean, rivers at the bottom of the oceans, or extremely salty rivers, lakes, ponds at the bottom of the oceans. They are so salty and briny, and I don't know what else they contain that give them this appearance, or this quality that makes them appear, or characteristic of lakes and rivers here on the continents. Now, this is actually a fairly recent discovery, so I don't know yet that much about that, but I have read about that, and there are a few um, documentaries about that. That much I know, but since it is new, even for me, I can't say that much about that just yet. But yeah, that's actually fairly interesting. Now, with the seafloor geography, the oldest rocks of the ocean floor is barely 200 million years old, while the youngest is maybe a few minutes old. You see, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, for example, the the continent, the oceanic crust, or just the crust, is moving apart, and new magma or lava is coming up through that crack and forming new crust. You can actually see it in Iceland with those eruptions and cracks at what's it called? Sorry if I mispronounced the name. Thingvellir. Sorry, I don't speak Icelandic, but there's this massive crack in Iceland that's that you can see across a large portion of Iceland. Part of it is called Thingvellir. Yeah, like I said, I don't speak Icelandic. That's where two crustal plates of the Earth are moving apart, and that's an area where new crust is formed. Now, this crust is destroyed at the same rate it's formed, and it's destroyed at subduction zones. Um, Subduction zones is where one crust or one plate dives beneath another, such as by Japan, where that massive earthquake occurred back in March 2011. Um, Now, these plates move at several centimeters per year. So, yeah, since the crust that's underneath the oceans is constantly being recycled, the oldest part of this crust is not older than 200 million years old. So, this old crust fo- formed when the dinosaurs were, yeah, just starting out in the early Triassic about 200 million years ago. So it's only now being destroyed. Now, you should know that the crust beneath the oceans is made of basalt, basically the same type of rock that's coming out at Hawaii, basically at Mauna Loa with those lava eruptions. So it is very dense and heavy, which is why it's rarely found above sea level because it's so dense and heavy. Now you need a lot of basaltic rock to form a mountain or seamount, as they are called if they are underwater, to reach the surface and become an island and become visible. Um, yeah, like for example at Iceland, there's this big magma chamber underneath Iceland that's giving the volcanoes and the Mid Atlantic Ridge, as it is called, extra magma to form Iceland, which is why which is why Iceland is in the middle of the Atlantic on top of this Mid Atlantic Ridge. Now, yeah, that's yeah. What else is there? Yeah, sometimes this basaltic rock can be found, or this oceanic crust or rock can be found in the middle of a continent. You see, millions and millions of years ago, when two continents would come together, some of this crustal rock became squeezed between the two continents, such as in the Himalayas, where India crashed into the Himalayas, some of the rock beneath the oceans forming this plate or oceanic plate became trapped in the between the continents themselves. Now, over millions of years of erosion can then expose this rock, which is then known as a greenstone belt. Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah, greenstone belt. Now, you can find this type of rock wherever an ancient mountain belt formed between two continents. Now, yeah, like I said, oceans serve an important role in distributing heat, storage reservoir for CO2, and as a major producer of oxygen. Now, oceans also have a very high biodiversity, such as in coral reefs, such as the Great Barrier Reef by Australia. Now, since oceans have such a high heat capacity, especially near the equator, they can produce massive storms, hurricanes, typhoons, cyclones. Now now the oceans and the atmosphere also have an important role. The atmosphere traps heat from the sun, and this heat then acts with the heat from the oceans to form these ocean currents, which then distribute the heat across the planets, also through the oceans. Um, you see, the currents not only flow at the top, but they also flow up and down. So they take heat to the bottom of the oceans and draw cold water from the bottom of the oceans up, and thus distributing the heat also up and down. Now, now since the people, since we are releasing so much CO2 into the atmosphere, it's heating up the planet, the atmosphere, and the oceans, which will have dramatic consequences for the whole planet, as was seen with this year with these all these extra storms. Now, whether it's because of human induced global warming, I actually believe that we are having a effect on the planet through all the CO2 that we're releasing. Now, we humans are releasing 35 billion tons of CO2 per year, and about half is absorbed by the oceans or by plants. The rest stays in the atmosphere, which is about 17 to 18 billion tons of CO2 that remains in the atmosphere, and this traps just a little bit more heat in the atmosphere, which heats up the oceans. Now, this this heat in the atmosphere and the oceans causes the water to expand, called thermal thermal expansion, whereby the water gains extra heat energy and basically expands just a little bit, raising sea levels by just a few millimeters or so per year. Also, this all this heat in the atmosphere and oceans is causing glaciers and ice caps to melt, which will raise sea levels more. Now, if all the ice on the planet were to melt, we would be covered in, or the oceans would rise up by 66 meters. Now, I would be, now since I'm near the coast, like I said before, I would be basically swimming, or at least the sea level would be another 40 or so meters above me. So, if that were to happen, bye. I'd be swimming in front of the little camera that I have here. Yeah, that would be fun and traumatic to anyone who's watching. Yeah, but joke aside, global warming is a very serious thing that we must try and reduce as soon as possible. Now, like I said before, I believe people are, or there is strong evidence that people are having an effect on the Earth's climate and global warming. But either way, global warming will have serious effects on the oceans and the storms. For example, all the CO2 being absorbed by the oceans is making them more acidic, which means that animals that form shells, for example, mollusks, seashells, coral reefs, for example, can't form their shells anymore because of the higher acidity levels because of the CO2. Also, when the oceans and the atmosphere warm up as they are now doing, the storms that we see, especially the hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons, will, where there are several possibilities that may happen. One, there will be more of them, more hurricanes, more typhoons, more cyclones. Also, we will see, yeah, like I said before, more of these storms, category 1 to 5. Another possibility is that these storms will grow more powerful. For example, we may see category 6, maybe 7 hurricanes in the Atlantic, or the storms that we do experience will grow exponentially in size, such as Hurricane Sandy back in 2012. Now, let's take Atlantic hurricanes as an example. The average hurricane in the Atlantic is about 500 to 800 kilometers across from one side to the other. Now, what I propose is that as the planet warms, especially the oceans and the atmosphere, these hurricanes may double in size from about 500 kilometers minimum to well over 1,000, such as with Hurricane Sandy, which was, yeah, 1,600 kilometers across, basically double the size of a large hurricane, which normally doesn't grow no bigger than 800 k's. Sorry about that. Yeah, the like I said, hurricanes normally have a size of about 500 to 800 kilometers. So with a warmer planet, we may see hurricanes that are double the size of that, which could be very bad. Also, with a warmer planet in general, these hurricanes will last longer, travel greater distances, and also start affecting places that they normally wouldn't, such as Canada, possibly Europe as well. I mean, that actually happens a lot, um, such as the Great Windstorm or just the Great Storm of 1780. Yeah, if I remember correctly, I have to look that up again, but if I remember correctly, in 1780 there was this massive windstorm in the UK. Now, some believe that it may have been the end of a tropical storm. Now, yeah, if I remember correctly, now I don't have all the details of it yet, but from what I've read so far, um, this windstorm was the result of a normal hurricane that has that had managed to cross the entire Atlantic coast from North America all the way to the UK. But when it got to the UK, it basically was just the remains of of a hurricane. Yeah, in the end, it was just a massive windstorm. Yeah, with a warmer planet, we will see more of those kinds of storms. Now, I hope this answers some of your questions. Now, if you want to know more about the oceans or other similar subjects, just let me know. And if there's something I forgot to mention, please let me know. Or if there's something that I didn't get right, please correct me on this. Um, yeah, but I hope this answers some things, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, hope you enjoy this video. So please like, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Also, this goes for everyone else who hasn't subscribed or wants to subscribe. Oh man, sometimes I really embarrass myself with this kind of stuff. But anyway, guys, please subscribe, please like and share. And guys, I just want to say, if I take long to say something, please forgive me. It's because of my autism. So it sometimes takes me a long time to say something that I want or express myself. So yeah, please be patient with me. I'm not perfect. So, but I hope you enjoy this video anyway, and the others as well that I've released so far. And perhaps one day, if I have figured out how to do this, I can start with gaming as well. Once I figured out how to do that. But until then, um, sorry that was scary. Yeah, but anyway, until then, I will be chatting with you guys like this. And if there's a movie that you want me to review, please leave that in the comments. I'll also do movie reviews. But as a heads up, there are certain movies that I will refuse. If you say Sharknado, nope, did that, done that, they suck. I'm not doing them again. No, just no. Except this, I may review the 6 movie that will come out maybe next year, but the previous ones, 1 to 5, no way, not again. I've done that, I've reviewed them, and there's no way I am doing them again. So, if there is a movie you want me to review, just leave it in the comment section and I will come to you as soon as I can. And yeah, if it's a movie that is good or looks decent, then I will review it. But if it's a movie that doesn't look decent, like the Sharknado movies or similar ones like that, then I'm not reviewing them. But new movies like the King Kong movie that came out this year, I think, then I will review it. Or the newest Mummy movie, that I will review. But otherwise, bad sci-fi movies like Sharknado, nope, not doing that. No ways. Forget it. I'm not doing them again. So, if you have had ideas of me reviewing them, nope. Sorry, guys. Not those. Anything else but those. But, yeah. And before I forget, the Emoji movie and Captain Underpants? No. Sorry. Too stupid. Especially the second one. I never liked that. No. I never liked that guy. Just seeing the few clips that I have seen up to now, it just looks too stupid. It's just too stupid for me. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. But some movies I will review again. But yeah, just leave it in the comment section which movies you want me to review. So, have a nice day or evening wherever you are, and peace out.